campaign is being funded by some Islamic group in Nigeria. We have more on this particular story. Now, also, don't patronize unaccredited programs run by some public universities. That's the call from the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission as it emerges that despite concerns raised by the Auditor General, KNUST still has over 360 unaccredited courses, leaving Parliament furious.
Okay, so
my question was simple.
Specifically about the diploma programs, the majority of diploma programs in the university are no longer on offer. We have phased them out, and so we do not offer those programs.
The universities say the situation is beyond them, but the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission says the excuse is untenable. Now, we'll be getting into details of all of these stories and more here on The Pulse. We're live around the world on myjoyonline.com, on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV on channel 125. My name is Samuel Kojo Brace. It's an honor to serve you with The Pulse. Now, the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament is unhappy with the continuous running of unaccredited programs by almost all public universities. As of today, the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology has over 300 programs yet to be accredited. That's according to the Vice Chancellor, Professor Rita Akosia-Dixon. Responding to audit findings before the Public Accounts Committee, most of the programs are at various stages of accreditation, describing it as an unfair suggestion for such programs to be stopped.
Currently, we have more than 500 programs, and as we speak, we have about over 140 accredited, and some of them at various stages of accreditation. For example, I'm able to report, Honorable Chair, that we've been working very closely with GTech to be able to ensure that these programs are accredited. Currently, as we speak, we have over 100 programs that we are expecting GTech to mobilize and put together faculty to come and review on our campus. Thank you.
Madam, please, the auditors ask that you cease running programs that are not accredited. Have you stopped?
A number of them are re-accreditation programs. So you are running the program, the student gets to third or fourth year, then the accreditation period expires. You don't just, in the middle of it, cease running the program. Honorable Chair.
This is a very serious matter because Parliament was petitioned by some students just about a month ago regarding their eligibility to enter the Ghana School of Law because of matters like this. Accommodation is a problem on campus, and they are struggling to pay. And when they pay, the students are studying the program they are studying. Auditors are saying that they are not accredited.
Chair, all the sentiments that have been expressed, we are together on this. A lot of efforts have gone into accreditation. Without regulation,
I think you are defending everything. As a committee, we are not happy.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I'm sorry that you are not happy, but my assurance as Vice Chancellor, we are doing everything we can.
Now, authorities of the University of Ghana say they have taken steps to ensure the accreditation of some of the school's programs listed as unaccredited in the 2021 Auditor General's report. Speaking at the Public Accounts Committee on Tuesday, Registrar Emilia Ejay Mensah said the university has made sure 60 out of 80 undergraduate programs are now accredited. Listen to the interaction between her and the Vice Chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, Samuel Atamils.
After we had these audit responses, we've put in place a lot of measures. So, for instance, currently we have a total of 132 programs, or should I say we have a total of 220 programs in the whole university. We have put in place measures to ensure that all of these programs are properly accredited. Currently, we have 132 programs which are fully accredited.
Madam,
and this cuts across all levels.
Madam, I'm sorry that I may come across as being rude, but I'm asking a specific question. But you want to give me a PhD thesis out here. 2021, the auditors came in for the undergraduate programs. 80 of them were not accredited. I'm interested in that 80 that was not accredited. What have you done about it? The 80 that you were audited and they were not accredited.
Mr. Chairman, what we have done is put in place systems to ensure that all of these 80 programs are properly accredited.
How many of them have you gone to get the accreditation for, the 80?
Mr. Chairman, out of the 80, I would say that currently we have 60 of the undergraduate programs fully accredited, and the rest are in the process of being accredited.
Now let's go to the next one, postgraduate. You had 213 programs that were not accredited.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As part of the process, we have weeded out many programs that were no longer being offered at the University of Ghana. So as I said, we have a total of 220 programs in all. So this figure of 213 postgraduate programs, half of them probably have been taken out because they are no longer offered at the University of Ghana, and the remainder have gone through the accreditation processes or are in the process of going through reaccreditation.
Now let's go to the GTEC and speak to Mr. Gyakye, who is with the commission, and get Professor Gyakye. Professor Ahmed Gyakye is with the commission. Let's try and get some more details. Now, Prof, I'm grateful to you for joining us here. Now, there should be a resolution to bring confidence in the tertiary institution and the programs they run. Why are we still having issues with regards to the programs being accredited?
Well, I think, first of all, the simple question, the simple response to your question is that the institutions are not adhering to what the law is. As you may recall, somewhere last year, we had this conversation surrounding non-accredited programs. We gave the universities the benefit of doubt because of where the commission was coming from relative to the accreditation environment. That being, as you are aware, we used to have what we call the National Accreditation Board, which was responsible for accrediting programs, and the National Council for Tertiary Education, which had oversight when it comes to policy formulation and policy directions relative to tertiary educational delivery. There were some problems, and government, in its wisdom, thought that it was necessary for them two institutions to be merged. So with that measure came into being GTEC. GTEC has been working with these institutions. And I must say, KUST has been extremely supportive and forthcoming when it comes to adherence to accreditation. I've been working with the Vice Chancellor for all these years, for all these months, to make sure that the backlog has been cleared. And to the best of my knowledge, we've done a lot of clearance when it comes to the backlog. Where we have the problem is that for some reason, institutions have this mentality that when you apply for accreditation, automatically you are going to be granted. So when you apply for accreditation, it doesn't mean that you are going to get accreditation. And the law is very clear. There's no middle ground. You are either accredited or you are not. It's just like a driver's license. You go for a driver's license, you are issued a driver's license for you to drive, or you don't drive. You cannot be excused on the premise that we've put in the application, the processes are ongoing. That is why we have all these unaccredited programs. I don't think it's pardonable. It's inexcusable. But this is what the Commission is doing moving forward. The Commission is working as hard as it can to make sure that all programs are accredited. Henceforth, we are going to be publishing in the newspapers, online, all programs and centers that are not accredited. So if under normal circumstances you go on our website, the publication of programs that are accredited invariably means that those that are not published are not accredited. But we are taking a step beyond that. All programs that are not accredited and are being run by institutions as evidence on their website, GTech is going to publish them to conscientize the public to be wary of sourcing such programs. Because I think it's becoming too much for us to be going back and forth when it comes to this whole concept or issue of accreditation. Okay. Accreditation is a quality assurance exercise. And what is being done is a peer review exercise. So I do not see why individuals should rush to publish programs that have not been accredited on the assumption that they are going to be accredited. Now, let me give you a typical example. On this issue of existing programs that are going through the accreditation process, an accreditation letter being issued to an institution is very clear that you are supposed to start the process 1 year before expiration of that program. So I don't think it's excusable for us to say that within the program expires, so what are we going to do with the students? I don't think that's the way we need to go. You need to start ahead of time, and the letter is very clear that you need to start 1 year ahead of the expiration of the program.
But on the reaccreditation, process, how is that a concern when you've given them the permission to start, but they have to reapply to be reaccredited, and they have not been able to do that? How is that a major problem?
It's a major problem, just as I believe probably you have a passport. You're given a passport for a certain period. You use the passport within that period, and when the passport is expired, you go for renewal, just as a driver's license, or even the license that Joy News is using to operate. You go for renewal because we want to be sure that the infrastructure that you brought in for you to be given accreditation is existent. There are instances that you come in with a number of lecturers, a number of facilities, you run for a period, 3-5 years, we come back and you don't have anything to show for it. So reaccreditation is a necessity when it comes to quality delivery and quality assurance. There's no doubt about it. And I don't think the managers of the institutions are in any way more or less arguing about the need for it. But the issue here is that historically, institutions have not been adhering to the tenets of accreditation. And as I told you, the environment was one that was structured in a manner that whether you are accredited or not, you are not punished for that. But the law is very clear that unaccredited programs come with punitive actions to the extent that managers can be sent to prison. So we would have to crack the whip. And the consequences of non-accreditation within this space currently is that foreign institutions are looking or checking for the accreditation status of programs that are being run, to the extent that, as one of the parliamentarians did indicate, we have instances where people have been denied scholarships or people have been denied admissions because their checks point to the fact that these programs are not accredited. So the onus lies on the managers of the institutions to take accreditation seriously. And as I said, GTech is going to name and shame. We expect that the general public also adhere to our more or less caution. And if you're to name and shame, we expect that the general public also adhere to our more or less caution. And if you're
case to be listed. So we have a substantive. The bill has not been passed. So today, all these issues were procedural. It was about the manner in which it was being done. But there are substantive issues about the content of the bill, and we'll get to that later. Excuse me.
Joseph, you're still with me. In the earlier issue concerning James Gyakye Quayson, was he in court himself, and what did he say?
So Mr. Quayson was not present at the Court of Appeal, but subsequently when the trial went over to the High Court, when he resumed the cross-examination of the state's first witness, he was present, and his lawyers have been commenting on the case that happened both at the Court of Appeal and what took place at the High Court today, where they questioned the state's witness on whether, when he petitioned the police to investigate James Gyakye Quayson, whether he attached relevant evidence which formed the basis of this particular prosecution. Abraham Amaliba is Director of Legal of the Opposition NDC.
Today is a baptism of fire for the witness. You notice that today the Attorney General could not help but had to supplant himself to give evidence. And the evidence of the Attorney General, which is not allowed in court, and that of the witness were in sharp contrast. Indeed, you remember yesterday there was this issue of attached documents. Today, the same matter came up. The witness, in his police statement, indicated that he had attached documents. And so, counsel for Gyakye Quayson requested that the witness produce those documents. However, the Attorney General became uncomfortable and indicated to the court that there were no documents attached at all. So the question now to ask, and I want the media to help me answer the question, between the witness and the Attorney General, who is speaking the truth? It's important. Because this is a discredited witness whose evidence, and you saw that he was evading questions, whose evidence cannot stand the test of time. And yet, you want to put an innocent man behind bars based on this discredited evidence? God is watching.
I mean, at the tail end of proceedings, counsel did indicate that he has filed some process under Article 130 asking for a reference to the Supreme Court. What is the concern with regards to that?
Yes, so we have filed for an interpretation. That's an interpretative issue at the Supreme Court on Article 19 of the Constitution, which has to do with fair trial. And you know, all this brouhaha is about whether the accused person would have fair trial. And so we want the Supreme Court to interpret Article 19. What does fair trial mean? Does it mean the accused person must be coming to court every day? Is that what fair trial means? And who in this country, which accused person in this country has been going to court every day? Indeed, I am informed that Vomawo, the fifth country convener, has pleaded with his court to be trying him every day. And the court said no. So between the person who is going to stage a coup, allegedly, the person who's alleged to wanting to stage a coup, and the person who signed a statutory declaration, who is so dangerous to the country that his trial must be done every day?
I mean, another thing that has been happening outside of here is in Parliament. I mean, clearly no business is happening there. As a party, in terms of the National Democratic Congress, is it a position that the party signs up to completely, that they are behind their members of Parliament continuing to boycott?
We are completely behind our members of Parliament for boycotting sittings anytime this matter is being heard. The reason is that this trial is a persecution. The state is using its power to persecute him. What strength do we have? We have 137 in Parliament. Their 138 are following Bamud Bamya around, so they come from a quorum. We will use our 137, so we will use our strength as they are also using their strength against the MP.
So Joseph, what's next in this case?
And so first, the matter is back in court on the 26th of July at the High Court, where the court would have to answer the question again whether it should put the trial on hold because of this new process that Mr. Maliba made reference to a short while ago that has been filed at the Supreme Court. And so that brings to number two, the process that are at the Supreme Court. Already the one at the High Court is also still there. So the court will once again have to hear legal arguments and determine whether to proceed with the trial or not. And so that will determine what happens going forward, Samuel.
All right, grateful to you. Joseph Akable is our parliamentary affairs correspondent. Now, there we knew that there is a relationship between this case and what's happening in Parliament. So let's take it to Parliament now. Majority Chief Whip Frank Anodompre is defending the continuous absence of some of his MPP colleagues from sittings. Despite the NDC's minorities boycott of the House, the NPP side have not been able to marshal all its numbers for critical business leaving the House handicapped. Now, according to Frank Anodompre, there's no parliament in the world where all MPs are present all the time.
If you go to the British Parliament and other jurisdictions that we are seeking to emulate, you don't see all the members of Parliament in the chamber at a point T. I don't know if you can cite an instance where you, unless maybe there are ceremonial occasions that you find a full house. I am proud to say and I'll say this on behalf of our majority, all the things we want to pass, we've passed them. And we cannot make decisions without numbers. Important decisions cannot be made without our numbers. Anytime we want to pass stuff, we've got them passed. And we've got our numbers, mashallah. So that one you have to understand. Besides the point, there are ministers who are also members of parliament. And we have to be practical here. Sometimes somebody is traveled out of a jurisdiction, there's nothing you can do about it. And if I pick my data now and look at leave of absence that I have a lot, many more members who are on leave of absence. Some on medical grounds, some on official duties. So that one never arises. Your side is empty. You are saying that you are boycotting parliament. The substance of my case here is that you said, nobody told you to say that. Out of your own volition, Ato Forson said, we are going to boycott parliament. Is committee meetings not part of parliament? Is it not? It is. Yes, it is. So who are you deceiving? Ato Forson should come clear on this matter. I think that they should bury their head down in shame. It's a very unpopular decision by the leadership. I know their side is divided about it. Yes, they are divided about it. So if you want to boycott parliament in its entirety. Don't pick and choose.
Let's do some politics now, because the office of the vice president has debunked reports that the vice president's campaign is being funded by some Islamic group in Nigeria. Spokesperson for the vice president, Dr. Gideon Buaku, says the publication is false, fabricated, and only serves the propaganda purposes of its promoters. Let's share with you the statement that has been released now. It says the attention of the Bawumia campaign team has been drawn to a post by one David Humdeyen, a journalist in Nigeria, that the Bawumia campaign is being funded by some Islamic group in Nigeria called the ACF. We noticed that the same narrative has been copied by some persons and groups in Ghana on social media. This narrative is obviously false, fabricated, and only serves the propaganda purposes of its promoters. For the avoidance of doubt, the Bawumia campaign has no funding or any link with any Islamic group in Nigeria or anywhere else. We also note that the said David Humdeyen has promoted a pension for making similar claims against some persons and groups in Nigeria without any basis whatsoever. The Bawumia campaign is focused and will not be distracted by such vain untruth. The Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, has been very diligent and transparent from his days as a scholar, banker, and politician throughout his life, and will not depart from these now and forever, issued by the Communications Directorate. We're joined via Zoom by one of the spokespersons of the Bawumia campaign, Dr. Kabiru Mahama, who is joining us here. Doc, I'm grateful to you for joining us now. How is the campaign team of the VEEP taking all of this? Okay, we've also been joined by the head of the Political Science Department at the University of Ghana, Professor Aludi Seidu. Prof, I'm grateful for joining us here. What do you make of all of this allegation, and what sort of impact can it have on this campaign process? Prof, kindly unmute so we can hear what you're telling us here. All right, so Professor Aludi Seidu is head of the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana. Okay, so Prof, I cannot hear you. Hello, Prof. So I wanted to find out from you what you do make of this information that the Vice President's campaign is being funded by an Islamic group. The campaign team have debunked this allegation and saying that they do not have any financial link to any group whatsoever. What do you make of this development, and do you foresee it having any impact on the campaign processes so far? Well, I think we are having some technical challenges. We'll be solving them. But the story is that a Nigerian-based journalist is alleging that the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, has his campaign being funded by a Nigerian-based Islamic group. But the Vice President's campaign team has debunked this allegation, saying that they do not have any link to any group whatsoever, and that the Vice President is not ready to break the philosophy that underpins his person. We'll delve into this particular matter into details right after this very short break. We'll be back.
Bro, see, with the EcoBank salary account, you will enjoy free life insurance, free debit card, save while you spend, and an amazing chance to double your salary, and even more consolation rewards in the EcoBank double salary promo reloaded.
Guy, this EcoBank salary account sounds interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, but maybe next time, Charlie, you know what? I'll go shine my shoe.
Hey. Yo, myself, I'll go check my BP.
We going up, never go down, and we stay fly.
Chairman, see the white sign it here.
Open an EcoBank salary account today for a lifetime of benefits. You also stand a chance to win more than double your salary in the EcoBank Double Salary Promo Reloaded from now till July 31st. Terms and conditions apply.
This
promo is under the supervision of the National Lottery Authority under the Caritas Lottery Platform.
The Pan-African Bank.
Smile, Look lively, okay? Smile, smile. Is the money too small?
A bad stomach ruins your day. Don't let it. Take Gastron, your most effective antacid for the relief of symptoms of peptic ulcer, heartburn, gas pain, flatulence, and indigestion.
Hey guys, what are you waiting for? Let's go, let's go.
Mwah. Can you bring down the smile small?
Gastron, effective relief from stomach discomfort. Manufactured and distributed by NS Chemist Limited. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Daddy, this tank is big.
Yes, that's true.
It can store a lot of water.
That's so true.
Wow, it has a working tortoise on it.
That's so true.
I can see SINTEX. Syntax.
That is so true, my daughter.
When it falls down, it will spoil.
That's not true.
But why?
Hey! Syntex was the first to introduce double-layer tanks in Ghana. Syntex again was the first to introduce white inner layers in Ghana. Syntex gives you the biggest warranty, 7 years. No matter your water needs, Syntex is the answer. Syntex tank. Are you strong? Are you
Welcome back from the break. Now, let's return to our earlier story about the Bawumia campaign allegedly being funded by an Islamic group based in Nigeria. But the campaign team has debunked this allegation. We've been joined on Zoom, via Zoom, by a spokesperson for the Bawumia campaign team, Dr. Kabiru Mahama. We also have via Zoom the head of the political science department at the University of Ghana, Professor Ali Seidu. Prof, I was asking you for your input on this, but once I have the campaign team spokesperson, kindly indulge me. Let me find out from him. Dr. Kabiru Mahama, how is the campaign team taking all of this?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to you and to your cherished listeners. If you indulge me, when the information yesterday, I think that the first broach of that information was with me on Metro TV when it was mentioned. Quickly, I disregarded it, and I mentioned that the campaign team will not be distracted by such probable lies, to the effect that such a statement was made against the vice president and by someone who has had the notoriety for making such statements, and the Ghanaian media launching onto that particular story. The spokesperson for the vice president had to issue that statement. That was just to put the matter to rest. That statement for us suffices for any adequate response. The author of that statement on Twitter and those people who are holding on to that statement for us suffices as a response. Aside that, the vice president is focused on the campaign. Certainly, the strategies will always come, but the focus is on winning the NPP promise and winning the election for the NPP and for the people of Ghana, so that the transformation agenda, the vision that was set forward by the vice president, when he takes his form, and the details of it will be unveiled, will be pursued in its fullness.
So what does the campaign team intend to do about the source of the allegation in trying to clear the name of the vice president?
Because Mr. David Ode is noted for such statements, and if you just indulge me, he made a fuss about Mr. Dangote, who is a known business person. Also propaganda, also lies were peddled about Mr. Dangote. The same gentleman mentioned that Tinubu, the current president of Nigeria, was a drug dealer, and that he had made some money and was arrested by United States authorities for dealing in drugs. That turned out to be falsehood. Again, recently, the same person is making allegation that Mr. Tinubu has a Guinean passport or is a citizen of Guinea. And that same story is also not true. The notoriety of the gentleman in propagating was also highlighted when his account was even blocked by Twitter for consistently pushing anti-government propaganda. It is only someone who is obsessively delusional who will believe in the story being put out by the gentleman. Of course, we are in free democracy where freedom of speech has to be respected. But we tolerate such views. Much more bigger things have been said about the vice president. The vice president was recently noted or being projected as someone holding a British passport. We will just dispel those rumors, continue with the campaign, but the vice president team do not intend to do anything aside clarifying this. Anyone with extra information, if you feel like the vice president is actually engaged in campaign funding from inappropriate sources, illegal sources, you have the recourse to the courtroom to prove that. Okay? And the vice president is a law-abiding citizen. He doesn't intend to engage in any campaign funding. That is not in consonance with the laid-down rules of laid-down laws of the country. So that is just the position. We are not moved. We are not disturbed by this negative propaganda. It will come. Little more of sight will come. But the most important thing is the focus. The team will be focused, the vice president will be focused, the campaign will be pursued. And all these things are coming because of the traction the campaign is gathering. earlier on, other candidates were on the field, having a field day during their campaign. The vice president was occupied with the business of the state, and they had his accommodated leave, and he used that to start his campaign. But when the campaign instruction, you expect this distraction to come. For us, the vice president is focused, and we will do the campaign, clean campaign, will not tell lies on anyone, and will not actually also allow any lies heavily on the vice president to fester. We will respond when most of these lies will just disregard and continue with the campaign.
Kindly stay with me. Let me bring in the head of the Political Science Department at the University of Ghana, Professor Ali Dusedu. Prof, what do you make of this, and will it have any impact whatsoever on this campaign?
Good evening to you and to your viewers. I think Dr. Kabiru and then the campaign of the Vice President has made it clear that this is not true. And the fact that the person who has raised the allegation has a lot of credibility deficit, he has been doing that. So basically, on the value of the arguments from the Vice President's camp, this is not true. But assuming it is true, what are the implications? We all know that during election periods like this, there are a lot of people looking out. So let me put it this way. Election presents an opportunity for investment. Transnational corporations, multinational corporations, governments of developing countries, individuals, even organized crimes group always look out for opportunities like this to be able to position themselves for favor and due favor when that particular candidate is elected. So if this was to be true, the implication would have been that it could lead to a serious issue of special interest favor. The group that is sponsoring or is alleged to be sponsoring the vice president campaign is not going to do it for nothing. You know, the group will be doing it with the intention that they're going to be able to assess the vice president and ask for favor and demand favor when he's eventually elected to lead the MPP into next year's election and eventually becomes elected as president of this country. And those kind of favors are usually opportunities that are used to pay back those people who have invested. And sometimes a lot of due diligence are not done, and sometimes it can even lead to corruption and corrupt practices. Because when people are when you are giving that kind of favor at the heat of the campaign, it means that you also have to pay back. And sometimes the deals that are done to pay these people back usually don't go through proper procurement process, don't go through proper vetting and tender processes, and they usually kind of behind the scenes dealings that is meant to reward these people. And thirdly, what may happen is that it tends to bring what we call governance capture. So basically, you have a government that is not able to do what it's supposed to do, even if that is what the people want. Because there's somebody behind the scenes who calls the shots, because that person sponsored your campaign. So technically, you see the citizens demanding one particular thing, and government is very adamant in doing that particular thing. So there's a huge lot of what we call responsive gap, responsiveness in governance processes is the ability of government to accept people's demands and translate those demands into concrete action that addresses their challenge. Where the demands of the people or the citizens of Ghana conflict with the demands of the sponsors, there's a tendency that governments are likely going to go with the decision or the demands or the interests of the sponsors rather than citizens. So it kind of presents a very complex situation for governance processes, for accountability, for transparency. But the benefit is that the candidate that receives that money is able to organize a better campaign, is able to campaign ahead of his competitors, and is able to position himself or herself in a manner that brings dividends to the campaign. Okay. But as we look at it now, there's a strong denial from the campaign of the vice president that this is not true. Okay. So if what I'm saying is a hypothetical situation.
Doesn't it then bring in the whole argument about, funding sources for prosecuting political campaigns?
So I think there's been a huge debate since the beginning of the Fourth Republic as to whether the state should come up boldly and sponsor, besides the things that the state has already been doing. There's a kind of state sponsorship, but not as is done in other jurisdictions. So political parties are calling out for the state to be directly involved, design actions and guidelines that will gain traction for this particular policy, in the sense that it leaves governments that win elections the ability to meet the demands of the people, the ability to have the freedom to make decisions and implement programs that actually put the interests of the people as their famous priority. So basically, where this is lacking, government's hands are tied in their ability to do a whole lot of things. What we have seen with this proposal is the fact that it has been politically laden, as we always know in this country. When the NPP is in government, the NDC will be leading the call for state sponsorship of political parties. When the table stands, you see the reverse. So you don't see that element of commitment from the political parties to actually having a standardized state sponsorship for political parties, and this ability to cure all the mischief and these allegations that are associated with it. So until we rally behind the clarion call to have state sponsor political parties, whichever kind or form is going to take, we'll mostly see some of these things happen. Over the years, you've seen civil society organizations, NGOs, and other civic bodies leading this particular charge. But political parties usually keep quiet or get quiet when they are in government, and when they are in opposition, they think it is a good thing to do.
Interesting. But will it come to a point where they can tell us that, okay, even though state is not sponsoring, my funding sources are A, B, and C?
Yeah, so I think there are, in some democracies, there are regimes like that for reporting back how much money you have earned and how much money you have spent. And even there are thresholds. You cannot spend beyond a certain threshold. And at the end of the year, you have to account. So, but there are issues of gaps in implementing most of the very beautiful laws that we've had in this country. In especially the way donors present money to political parties and candidates. It's done in a very dodgy way. In some democracies, you have to report. It's either done through bank transfer or it's done through a check and all those things, so they can trace. But here in the middle of the night around 2 a.m., somebody brings you, Ghana must go back full of money. Only you and him knows what is happening. So who do you account to? So basically what we need to do is to tighten our ability, the donation processes, and make it more regular so that state agencies that are empowered to be able to enforce these laws will be able to do it in a manner that is remarkable, that is beneficial, and that can prevent people abusing that system.
Grateful to you, Professor Alidu Seidu, for joining us here. Dr. Kabiru Mahama is with us. Doc, so would you be kind enough to, because of this development, telling us the funding sources for the Bawumia team? Is this something you're considering doing?
Yeah, I think the Vice President would be unveiling his funding strategy for the campaign. I don't think it's going to be premature for me to, at this particular time, tell that if you're an observer of the social media, you see that a particular code has been trending for a relative while now. People are donating, or some people have even started donating, even though formally that has not been unveiled. That will be unveiled, and that is one of the sources. The Vice President has also got well-wishers and families and friends who are actually keen and ardent believers in the cause of the Vice President. They have been supporting the Vice President in this particular campaign. And recently, some few weeks ago, we realized that there were some pickups that made a lot of noise. That was an individual who believed that the Vice President candidature is good for the country. He decided to support the campaign with vehicles. All these are funding sources for the campaign. And I'm sure a more much more organized funding scheme will be introduced. We will be relying on the backing of the Ghanaian people, of well-wishers of the party and of the MPP and the Ghanaians at large to support the campaign. But at this particular juncture, a complete list of funding sources will be premature for them to disclose that. But the appropriate campaign team and the leadership of the campaign team would unveil that to the Ghanaian people.
Grateful to you, Dr. Kabiru Mahama, for joining us. He is one of the spokespersons for the Bawumia campaign team. Now, while Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia has ended his campaign tour of the Ashanti region, former Trade and Industry Minister Alan Kwadwo Kyerematen is beginning a tour of the OT region. We're joined by the OT regional correspondent, Peter Senu, to tell us what's happening. Peter, grateful that you could join us here. We've also been joined via Zoom by Yao Boabeng as Samoa spokesperson for the Alan Kyerematen campaign team. Grateful to you, sir, for joining us here. So what's the plan for the OT region now that you've landed in that region?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Very well. Thank you very much. This morning we started from Gyakye, this is Buem, and Akan, and Gyakye and Guan constituencies. As we speak, we are in Nkwanta South, having a meeting. I'm speaking to you from Nkwanta South.
Okay. What's the focus of the team? We know that when you go to places, you do a combined, constituency sort of meeting. Is that going to be same here, or the focus is changing?
No, the focus will not change, but you adapt depending on the geographical circumstance. So the first meeting we had this morning in OT was made up of 4 constituencies. That's what I told you. The 4 constituencies were hosted in Gyakye. And now we have to come to Nkwanta South by itself because the distances are very, very great. And beyond this, we'll then continue to Nkwanta North, because again, the distances are quite far apart. And then you need to go to Gyakye as well, which will mean crossing the river. So it depends on the geography. But beyond this region, I doubt if there will have to be an occasion where we do it this way anymore.
Okay.
But it's a mix, because the first, what we did this morning, we're all together.
How is the response by the people? We've seen what happened in the Volta region. In Nkwanta, how is the response like?
It's beautiful. They've spent time, they've left their farms, and they've transported themselves here to listen to us. And out of 800 delegates, we see in excess of 7 of them for the process. We are happy. Hello?
Yeah. Now there's an issue with the Bawumia campaign team. We are hearing allegations that they are being funded by an Islamic group based in Nigeria. What is the Alan team picking? How do you respond to this allegation? Would you even call for the disclosure of funding sources for various campaign teams?
I don't think that's the regime we're dealing with now. We have been working on mobilizing support from traditional sources and from the general public. We recall that we launched the Gyakye campaign before, soliciting funds from the public. And also, we've been seeking funds from well-wishers who are entitled to do so to support the campaign. So we have nothing to worry about as far as campaigning funding is concerned.
All right. Great. So from the OT region, where next will the Alan team be focusing?
Once we are
well, it's like we're having some challenges there, but you're still watching the Powers on the Joy News channel. So there you have it from both the Baumia camp and the Allen camp. But trust your election headquarters will be with the teams and will bring you update on whatever is happening within the various camps in the MPP. Now to other stories now, and it has been revealed that children with reported cases of cancer at the Korle-Bu Teaching Hospital currently have only 20% of survival rate. The situation has been attributed to misdiagnosis, late presentation, and abandonment of medication by parents due to high cost of treatment. Currently, global estimates peg the number of children with cancer in Ghana to over 1,000 a year. But Dr. Francisca Boateng, who is with the Department of Child Health at Korle-Bu and a member of the Ghana Medical Association, says the number has been underestimated because some of the children are dying undiagnosed. She spoke on the Super Morning Show.
Because of the late presentation, say about 20%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Currently, only about 20% of the children who come into the hospital system survive it.
Yes.
And we heard a rather disturbing figure that there are you are getting about 250 cases.
180 on the average
a year.
But mind you, there are about, based on the global estimates, there are about 1,200 children under 15 who have cancer a year. So if
in Ghana.
So if we're seeing about 180 and say Konfanochi is seeing close to that, that is less than half the cases that actually have cancer. And obviously we are underestimating the people that have cancer.
Right.
So 20% of those that actually come for healthcare are surviving. So you can imagine, I mean, if you're talking about countrywide, maybe if you have to do the right extrapolation, you're seeing about 10%, because some of them are dying undiagnosed.
Yeah.
So
that's crazy.
And what are the common cases today?
So on our ward, we'll say most of them are leukemias.
Leukemias and then the lymphomas.
Yeah.
And this low survival rate is completely down to late detection or late reporting.
Late presentation.
So late presentation.
Misdiagnosis,
yes. And then also abandonment of treatment. So we actually have parents who start on treatment and then disappear.
Why? Is it the financial?
Yes, the cost. The medications are quite costly. And the investigations involved, they are quite expensive.
And then the mentality. So this country is plagued with people thinking that the herbal preparation, so you have a lump, for instance, and you hear people talking about herbal medication to melt the lump. So they are hearing things from other people, the people at home. They trust them more because somebody will come and say, oh, my child had a lump here. You know, I applied this herbal preparation, it went. And I mean, obviously, they'll take that over having to stay in the hospital for long periods. They are scared of the chemotherapy drugs. So what they don't know, I'll say, kills them because they think that other forms of treatment are better or will work.
She has however warned parents to desist using herbal medicine to treat children with cancer as it exposes them more to other delicate diseases.
If you're drinking a herbal concoction, it's going into your stomach. It's coming out of your alimentary canal. So from mouth to anus, excuse my language, I mean.
No,
yes.
It's proper language.
So essentially anus. That, yes. And so something that goes through your alimentary canal cannot reach a cancerous cell that's probably in your hand. Essentially. I mean, typically, because the anti-cancer medications are mostly intravenous. So they go through the venous system, the blood, and then reaches the other points in the body. So if someone is drinking a herbal preparation, it's unlikely that it will go and touch the cancerous cell there. Secondly, we don't know what these herbal preparations are made of. Most of them are causing kidney failure, they're causing liver failure. So they're only going to cause more harm than good. So basically, I mean, if you hear things like this, you need to ask yourself, is it something that makes sense?
We're joined via Zoom by Jane Williams, who is founder of the Viva Terksen Foundation, and Kwame Owusu, an oncology nurse at the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital. Jane, let me start with you because you've had a child who passed as a result of, childhood cancers. How was it like for you? Jane, kindly unmute for me so we can hear what you're telling us.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to our viewers and listeners. The journey was traumatic for us because we had no idea at that time that kids also get cancer. And at that time in Cape Coast, we didn't have a facility that was handling children battling cancer. So we had to commute from Cape Coast to Accra every time for treatment. And you can imagine the stress, even getting accommodation and all that. So it was a very difficult moment for us.
And so aside that stress, how was the child, taking it? You were going through stress, but how was it really for people who have children going through the same things? How would they be feeling now? You've been there before.
It's a very difficult moment to be in as a parent. For you, the parent, financially, it's a drain. No matter how wealthy you can say you are, you will feel a pinch. It is a very expensive venture because buying the chemo drugs, doing the MRIs, and it is only through the MRI that they can be able to ascertain the damage that the cancer cells is doing to the body. So if you are unable to afford the MRI, it means that basically you cannot even see what is happening to your child. Then psychologically, the children don't go to school. They will have to stay at home, and it's a drain on them because they'll keep on asking you, why am I not going to school? Why are my friends going to school? And then I am home. So it's a whole lot. And then the other siblings too, you realize that you pay attention much to your sick child, and then if you're not careful, you end up neglecting the other kids. And they will also be complaining that it seems like you don't love them. So I always say that if one person has cancer in the home, it affects every other person in the home, psychologically, emotionally, financially, everybody suffers.
How did you, diagnose your child's cancer?
Okay, so for my child's cancer, we didn't know about it. So she fell, and she had a swell at the right side of her hip. So I quickly rushed her to the hospital for a scan because obviously she was not bleeding, there was nothing. So when they had the scan at CCTH, then we were told that there is a tumor that is basically taking over her kidney. Unfortunately for us, she was born with a single kidney. Naturally, she came to this world with a single kidney. So that same single kidney had the cancer cells taking over. When we found out, it had already taken about 70% of her kidney already. So we just tried to help her and then see how best we can save her. But unfortunately, we were able to do something, and then the cancer spread to her lungs, and it also went into her urinary tract, went to her chest. It just started spreading. Just as we were almost even done with her chemo, then we realized that it has spread to other organs and in other parts of her body. So they had to put her on palliative care. And then 10 days after palliative care, she went home peacefully to her maker.
Would you have made any changes if you had seen it earlier?
Yes, I keep on saying it. And as the major mandate of our foundation, we are preaching early detection. Because until her passing, we didn't even know that constipation can actually be a sign that your kidneys are failing you. My child used to have chronic constipation. I mean, constant ones, that when she has to visit the restroom, you have to hold her hands and then you push with her together. You understand? And they put her on laxatives. They were told to give her more refugees and she should drink a lot of water. We didn't know that all these are signs that the kidney was telling us that it is shutting down. So early detection, we should pay attention to our children, the things they complain much, because the cancer symptoms are just like the normal fever symptoms, headache, feeling dizzy, feverish, and all that. So if it becomes chronic, you take it to the hospital, they treat it, it comes back again, they treat it, it's not going, please. Let them check whether it is that. Because for my child, I later found out that it was actually the kidney that was failing her. That was the reason for her constant constipation. Yes.
Stay with me. Let me bring in the oncology nurse now. So we understand that the cases are on the rise. What is contributing to the rise in cases?
Okay, as the video that we watched, early detection, like people are not seeking help, and people even don't know that children have cancer. Sometimes we have a September month for oncology month. We go around and we do education. I realize that most of them think the cancer cases is only for the adults. But children also do get cancer. That's why, so they are not seeking help early. And we also talk about the facilities that we are caring for the cancer cases. At first, it was only Kolebu and Kofanochi. And the others that we are seeing the cases now, like Cape Coast, and Techiman, and Tamale, they are shared care centers. So at first, let's say the person, where the person stays and is now going to Kolebu, it's also a difficult journey. And most people even didn't know that we have children have cancer and they need to be cared for. So they don't bring the child to the hospitals, but they rather turn to the pastors, herbalists. By the time that they come to the hospital, and also misdiagnosis, because cancers like from the eye, like the retinoblastoma, can be misdiagnosed as being cataract. So from maybe if they go to the health facilities where they are being seen, they are being misdiagnosed of certain conditions and they are being treated. By the time they come to the teaching hospitals, the cases have already been advanced. That's why it's causing the high rates of the cancer cases. And also the treatment is costly. But now by the government, through the government interpretation, some of the 4 childhood cancers are now on insurance. And people are now coming for treatment. Thank you.
Well, so for parents who are watching us now, what must they be looking out for in their children to probably give them that preemption that I should be careful, probably my child is developing this?
Okay, so we talk about the early warning signs. Because for now, we don't, apart from talking about genetics, there have been a lot of research being done, but we can't really pinpoint these are the causes of the pediatric cancers. Okay. So we have early warning signs. Example, when your child is, like you have cataracts, if there's a squint in the eye, you should bring your child to the hospital. A squint, or the child is having disturbances. Sometimes there can be a mass at the cheek. Sometimes they take it as mumps. By small mumps, it can be one of the pediatric cancers. Okay. And as the kidney cancers, sometimes when you are taking care of your baby, you are bathing your baby, you feel a mass at the left side. Mostly the kidney cancers start at the left. So there's a mass at the left that when you palpate is very hard. That one you have to bring your child earlier. If you leave the child home, the child will start passing urine, which is bloody, and the child will lose weight and other symptoms. Sometimes some of them have bleeding episodes. They have bleeding from the mouth, from the nose, and sometimes you won't see the significant bleeding, but sometimes you see in their palm, there are rashes all over. We call them petechial rashes. They are on the body. Sometimes the ones at the brain, sometimes if your child complains of early morning headache, this headache comes early in the morning. Okay. So always your child is complaining, Mom, I have early morning headaches. It's also associated with vomiting. Then it means your child stands a risk of getting one of the cancers. Okay. Some also complain of joint pains, pain all over. And sometimes some of the cancers are caused when you treat your child repeatedly for malaria. One of the cancers like the Becker's lymphoma cancer occurs when you treat somebody repeated with malaria and there's another virus, Epstein-Barr virus, that causes the cancer. So because you don't know that these are the attributes for the cancer, you need to bring your child as early as possible for screening. Okay. There are certain laboratory investigations that we are going to know to detect whether it's cancer or not. If it's not cancer, then you just send your child home. Than staying home relying on other things that is cancer or is not cancer. Okay. So these are some of the things that parents should look out for. Okay. If they are moms, they are swelling at any part of the body that you don't understand, you have been using herbal preparations for, and it's not working. Please seek early treatment as early as possible. Now we are.
Kwame also, yes, you wanted to make a point there. Conclude it for me, then we can move on. Okay. Kwame also is an oncologist, but Jane Williams is with us. Jane, so just to wrap up, what would be your advice to parents who are watching us now?
So my advice to parents is to pay particular attention to their children. Most of the times, because of our busy schedules and other things, we tend to ignore them when they complain of certain things that is going on with them. We should pay attention to them. And I always tell them that spending an hour or two in the hospital for an investigation is better than losing your child, because that's 2 hours that you take off your job to actually attend to the child will be your saving grace. Okay. Yes.
Grateful for sharing with us all of this. Now, Jane Williams is a mother whose child passed on through childhood cancers. Now, to other stories now, and the University of Education Winneba has initiated a project aimed at supporting teachers who teach physics across the country. According to the university, many teachers who teach the subject have the misconception that the subject is difficult, and such misconceptions have been transferred to students, resulting in many of these students not doing very well in the subject. Now, the head of the Department of Physics has been speaking after a day's workshop for tutors who teach physics in the Central Region. There is more in this report.
Actually, we realize that most of these teachers who are actually teaching at the senior high level, they themselves are carrying a whole lot of misconceptions, so they don't understand some of the concepts that they are teaching.
The head of Department of Physics at the University of Education Winneba, Dr. Gloria Ama, explains why there are issues of misconception as far as the teaching of physics in Ghana is concerned.
So we are expecting them that once they have come and we have taught them and they have seen some of these misconceptions, they will go out there and correct, and they will also be able to transmit the correct concepts and then the theories we have for better understanding of the students.
She says the university has identified a challenge and is harnessing a solution to that.
As this first one was for the Central Region, we hope to carry it along to the other regions. We actually want to help because we realize that we have few teachers in physics. So we want to do this to encourage more of our students who are taking physics as like a monster, so they are not able to venture into physics. If we are able to help them understand these concepts and theories better, they will have the interest in physics to take it up. And we are expecting that in the next future or near future, we will be able to have more students to train so that they will also go out there and continue.
A lecturer at the Department of Physics, Dr. Desmond Apia, says the workshop will be a major boost towards the teaching of physics in the country.
So some of the misconception, as we all realize, is that some or most teachers even do not know that density is a characteristic property. In that sense, the density of a material, irrespective of the size of the material, is still the same. But funny enough, most teachers and students are so quick to define or to write the formula of density, but then do not know the significance of density itself. So you recognize that from some of the questions which were given to them, most of them were not able to, because after they are done with the calculations, they don't know the significance of the calculations, and that they don't compare it to the concept to know whether it actually conforms to the concept or not. And also, we're able to use improvised techniques to depict to teachers how they will be able to explain why ships will sink deeper in fresh water than in sea water.
The university says it is its mission to train competent professional teachers for all levels of education, as well as conduct research, disseminate knowledge, and contribute to educational policy and development.
Now, the Greater Accra Regional Health Directorate is advising people to disregard myths about COVID-19 vaccination and take their doses. Speaking at the launch of the 7th round of COVID-19 vaccination exercise aimed at getting over 170,000 people vaccinated, the acting Deputy Director of Health in the Greater Accra region, Dr. Farida Abdullahi, said even though the World Health Organization has declared COVID-19 as no longer an international health emergency, cases are still being recorded on a daily basis. She's therefore stressing that all eligible persons in the population must be vaccinated to achieve solid immunity against COVID-19. There is more in the following report.
In a drive to consolidate gains made in the COVID-19 vaccination, the Ghana Health Service launched the 7th edition of its COVID-19 vaccination campaign, which is targeted at administering 1 million doses of vaccines to individuals. The Greater Accra Regional Health Directorate has also launched a campaign to get over 170,000 people vaccinated in the La Nkwantana Municipal Health Directorate. Speaking at the launch, Acting Deputy Director of Health in the Greater Accra region, Dr. Farida Abdullahi, said even though the World Health Organization has declared COVID-19 as no longer an international health emergency, cases are still being recorded.
Yes, it's no longer a public health emergency of international concern. That means that the whole world is not focusing on trying to control it. With the use of hand sanitizers, alcohol-based hand sanitizers, washing of hands under running water with soap, using the face masks, and the COVID-19 vaccination campaign that has been rolled out, the world has been able to control the spread of COVID-19. But that does not mean that we are still not recording cases. It doesn't mean that there's still a potential for spread. And as you realize, as the pandemic was evolving, even new strains were coming up from time to time. So we'll still maintain surveillance, and then we'll still ensure that the herd immunity that we acquired with the previous vaccine doesn't wane out, and that is why we are still vaccinating. Also, don't forget that we still have some people who have still not even taken a single dose. So there's still the need to ensure that all these people are vaccinated to ensure that the protection that we achieved during the period when it was a pandemic is still maintained. So for the 5 days, we are hoping to vaccinate a little over 170,000 people. And then we are hoping that with the media also supporting us to broadcast this message, we'll be able to make it. As we have the vaccines in stock, and we've distributed to all the districts and the points that need it. And we even have more than what we need for this campaign. So even if we should exceed the target, we'll have enough stocks to accommodate everyone who needs it.
The Municipal Director of Health Services for the La Nkwantana Municipal Assembly, Dr. Priscilla Enima, however, assured the vaccines are safe and have no side effects.
The vaccine is safe. And so far, we have recorded some few adverse drug reactions, but that doesn't. Is in terms of proportion, is not significant enough to deter people from not coming to take the vaccines. So, though if you take the vaccine and you have that reaction, you only report to our facility, we will take care of it. But that thing that people say when you take it, you become impotent and those kind of things. I don't think it's the right thing. It doesn't. It's not something to take home with. So I'm entreating everybody to come and take the vaccine. It's safe and it doesn't cause any infertility or to make your manhood shrink. And no. The COVID-19 virus is not fully eradicated. We still have some of the cases with us. So those of them who are saying that the virus is no more, and for that matter, based on WHO's declaration, they are not going to take the vaccine. I'll just plead with them that we still record cases, just that they are not all that severe. But for their own sake, and then for the herd immunity that I want to achieve, they should come and then take the vaccine for their own sake, for them to be protected, so that we can totally strip COVID-19 virus out of Ghana.
The vaccination campaign, which is already ongoing, is expected to end on Sunday and is aimed at ensuring the maximum coverage of eligible population to achieve the needed herd immunity to avert any future mass spread and impact of COVID-19 in Ghana. Prince Kwame Kudiga's report read to you.
Now, the Ministry of Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development is undertaking a household travel survey. Director of Human Resources at the Ministry, Kwabena Denchira, says this will help them gather comprehensive data on travel patterns, behaviors, and transportation demand of residents of the Greater Accra metropolitan area. He adds that this will contribute to the development of a sustainable and efficient transportation system that meets the needs of residents of the Greater Accra Metropolitan Assembly in the years to come.
The Ministry of Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development under the Ghana Urban Mobility and Accessibility Project will undertake a household travel survey. Director of the Human Resource at the Ministry of Local Government, Kwabena Denchira, indicates that this survey will contribute to the development of a sustainable and efficient transportation system that meets the needs of residents of the Greater Accra metropolitan area.
Survey is a unique opportunity to gather comprehensive data on travel patterns, behaviors, transportation demands of residents of Ghana, to inform transport planning and management, and to contribute to the development of sustainable and efficient transportation system that meets the needs of residents of Ghana.
Technical committee member of the Ghana project, Alex Johnson, believes that the survey will not only inform policy making, but will inform investors on investment opportunities in the area.
Okay, so this is giving us a first opportunity to have evidence-based data in the management of our urban system for transport services. From policy decision, you also have investment decisions. It's the first time that we would have a proper travel or household travel survey, which goes down to zone level patterns of travel. I mean, other systems, developed systems, have these kinds of data. So they are able to tell you what travel patterns to expect from each exercise to the next. As long as population is growing and there are patterns of migration across the city, having this fine level of detail for the data is essential to make sure that if you are planning for a road, you can prioritize. You can say that this area needs it more because of so and so economic, social factors. So it's a very holistic and comprehensive exercise that is going to happen, and the results are also supposed to inform a comprehensive investment or policy decision.
The survey, which will encompass a representative sample of 7,500 households, will be done from 24th July 2023 to 30th September 2023. For Joy News, Jacqueline Ansuma Yeboah.
Now, Zoom Lion, a leading waste management company, has unveiled an ingenious digital payment system in Accra aimed at completely transforming the process of rubbish collection in the country. Dubbed Change Your Bola Style, the initiative aims to revolutionize waste management practices to enhance the country's sanitary conditions. According to the managing director of Zoom Lion, Edwin Amwako, the relaunch of the digitization drive presents customers with a range of convenient payment alternatives, ultimately contributing to a cleaner and more environmentally sustainable Ghana. There's more in the following report.
Marked by a procession starting from Medina and traversing the principal street of Accra, the relaunch of Zoom Lion Ghana Limited digitization drive, which includes features such as unstructured supplementary service data USSD, has been warmly embraced by residents of Accra. Speaking at the launch, Managing Director of Zoom Lion Ghana Limited, Edwin Amwako, emphasized that the initiative would provide convenience to their customers while offering additional services.
This is to bring ease and convenience and peace of mind to our clients and customers who hitherto had limited avenues for payment. As a result of this digitization drive, new and existing clients of Zoomlion will now enjoy real-time data analytics to track and monitor payments and their balances, multiple platforms to make payments, i.e. via smartphone, analog phones, iOS, or Android platforms, on-demand waste management services, and easy and instant access to Zoomlion for complaints, requests, suggestions, and feedback. We will continue to relentless pursuit of innovation, combined with our vast experience in the waste management in the country, to build a better, cleaner Ghana for our generation and the ones that come after us.
In response to Zoomlion's new initiative, some residents of Accra and business owners expressed their enthusiasm considering the innovation to be good news.
Well, I believe that is a very good initiative. The only thing is that once we are in a technological era, for them to introduce certain, I think it will be okay. But the effectiveness of them also picking it up when you call them is one thing that we must also look at.
It's a good initiative, but I have a challenge sometimes with the pickups. Sometimes the dustbin is full, and you see that they might not come for it as soon as possible. And so sometimes the place is dirty, end up littering the area around. So that's the challenge with it. But it's a good initiative for Ghanaians to be able to have access to it.
Meanwhile, commending Zoomlion for the initiative, Mayor of Accra, Elizabeth Teriasaki, stated that incorporating technology into waste management is the most effective approach to address the issue of uncollected garbage that often ends up in drains.
Refuse or garbage are things that disturb the nation. And for instance, when they are not being collected, dumping of refuse into drains is a no. And therefore, if you are asked to come and pay and then the refuse is being collected, it's hallelujah, isn't it? So this is the best way to go. And the most interesting thing of it all is there's a portion also on it where you can complain. Oh, this morning the vehicle has not come for my baller. That's safe.
Although a 2021 estimate from the World Health Organization (WHO) suggests that Accra generates approximately 2,200 tons of waste daily, interventions such as the one being undertaken by Zoomlion are expected to contribute to improved sanitation in the country. Reporting for Joy News, I am Carlos Caloni.
Now, Russia has announced this week that it's pulling out of the Black Sea Grain Agreement, a deal which allowed Ukraine to export its grain despite Russia's naval blockade. The decision could have wide-ranging effect on the global food market. DW correspondent Emily Shuthes joins us for more on this. Emily, what was the agreement and why did Russia leave?
Sure. So as you mentioned, this is an agreement that focused on allowing Ukraine, which is a major grain, wheat and corn exporter, to continue to get those exports out to the rest of the world in safety despite the Russian invasion. And so this is an agreement that was put into place shortly after the invasion last year. During that time, a huge amount of Ukrainian grain exports have been able to leave the country and make it to elsewhere around the world. And it's an agreement that has been extended several times since that invasion. However, what we saw this week is that Russia allowed the agreement to lapse and did not agree to another extension of it. And the reasons that Russia has listed thus far, at least publicly, are that there were various agreements or various concessions that they wanted in terms of Russian exports, in terms of making things easier for some of their agricultural and fertilizer exports that have not yet been met. But it is something where international observers look at the fact that a major bridge to the Crimean Peninsula was attacked this week and wonder about sort of the timing of all of this happening all at once.
Now, how are European leaders reacting to this news?
European leaders have absolutely criticized Putin, basically saying that he is okay with people going hungry as a result of the war and as a result of this agreement. And so you've really seen a lot of harsh criticism coming out of most corners of Europe. You see from Turkey, which is one of the destinations, so when you cross the Black Sea, a lot of these things are ending up then in Istanbul and going on to the rest of the world. The Turkish leader, Erdogan, has said that he hopes that Putin will come back to the table and will approve this agreement, but that has yet to be seen.
Should continue. What impact could it have on the rest of the world?
Well, Ukraine is a huge exporter of grain, particularly wheat and corn, and there are about 400 million people around the world who depend on these grain exports in order to get sources of food. And so what you can see is two potential impacts. On the one hand, this means that a lot less of that grain is making it to other parts of the world, particularly developing countries that rely on it. And the other issue is that if that's what's happening, then you're going to see prices start to rise. And so there are a lot of world leaders and countries around the world that are concerned, first of all, that there will just be less supply coming to them, and second of all, that it means that what they are getting is going to cause huge increases in food prices. And so when we think about food security, this was one of the major concerns in the aftermath of Russia's invasion last year. And at the moment, or up until this point, the agreement was sort of helping to keep those things from coming to pass. But with the agreement lapsing, that's a real concern now.
All right, Emily, grateful to you for joining us with those updates. Now, in today's Joy Clean Ghana campaign, the Accra Metropolitan Assembly has commenced the assessment of public toilet facilities with a star rating system. The facilities are expected to be rated as is done for hotels, with ratings from 1 star to a 4-star rating system in accordance with the Assembly's health and sanitation regulations. The head of AMA Sanitation Team, Florence Kuchi, says the rating system will be an eye-opener for public toilet operators to maintain proper sanitary conditions. There's more in this report.
Last month, the AMA trained about 150 public toilet operators. Their training was aimed to educate, public toilet operators in a way to maintain cleanliness in their various washrooms. So today we are here at the Abubleshi bus station terminal to check whether they are actually complying with the AMA health regulations about the star rating, and that was supposed to start 1st July, but we are now beginning that. So what should we expect for today?
Okay, so when cities are growing, we are now going smart city. And when we are going smart cities, everything of ours must go smart. Public toilet is one of the main drivers of a smart city. You can't have a smart city without a public toilet, because public toilet improve the city economy. It improves the health of the city. It also improves the health of the public, and also bring insecurity. So because of that, we don't want the public toilet that are now springing up within the smart city to be public toilet that will be contaminated, that when somebody visits it and you come out, you are coming out with some form of bacteria or microorganisms on your hands that can lead to ailment. Today, we are now coming up to start with the star rating. So with the star rating, there's a checklist that we are going to fill. So when we are done with the checklist, if you score below 50, it means you have failed. We will have to look at what to do. Either we close down or we take action against you. If you fall between 50 to 59, we will give you yellow label. Up to 80 and above is green. If you get 80 and above, it means you are a city model public toilet, which will emulate within the city.
Here at the Abubleshi bus terminal, as you all know, the AMA started this star rating assessment last month, and they scheduled to, start implementing this whole assessment this month. So after all these checks, the AMA will rate and determine the fate of this public toilet, whether it will be shut down or not shut down. So currently you can see the AMA officials assessing the washrooms and also all the chambers here to find out whether in fact this place is actually clean and also safe.
Flashes are not leaking or nasty. Or flash is leaking now. So we can check ourselves whether there's leakage. If there's no leakage, then we take. So cleaning equipment is stored and kept properly separate. Hefa na niyama ode paper ehana hefa na ewo.
Isaiah.
Yeah. So it was separate. Now on mop no niyama wa hefa. And this was separate. So you take. So we lighten in the ensure that so we will not take.
Oh, yes, sir. What's the lighting?
It shouldn't be like this. I was saying that fita. What I say, when she asked it, I said, we shouldn't be. Most of dispenser wine. Inti I was saying we no.
Not you.
Inti I was saying we inti wouldn't be. Because when yampe contamination, we obi aba no afa hwie. So okra bibia obeja wo no obi so aba befa. Enye sanso ade ye ne yemia ne bi. Ti ubetimi de wonsan mia. It shouldn't be like this.
We just want to understand. So after all these checks, do you give them some days or some time for them to rectify all these mistakes?
Or depending on what you score, we will give you. So when you see here, we have yellow, amber, light green and green. So if you score below 40, below 50, it means you failed. So we'll give you a red star. There will be no star. It means you don't have a star. If you don't have a star, it means you have failed the test. The toilet will be closed down. There are some that may have some of the basic needs, but they don't have all. So when we calculate and you get 50 to 59, we will give you yellow. That is 1 star. We will paste it on you. Then we'll give you a certificate and ask you to do better.
So as you can see, they are just wiping through the edges of the door to pick up dirt and other possible bacteria that are attached to that door handle. There's no handle door there, but that's where users touch to open this particular chamber. So after swiping that edge of it, they insert it in a device. As you can see, it has only 15 seconds countdown to give the results. So after the results is released, above 80, that's 80, it means that particular portion of that door or the door in itself, it's actually unclean and needs to be checked. As you can see, this is 551, which means it's highly contaminated.
We did a checklist, that is the manual checklist, and we did a smart inspection, and then we did the ATP, that is the hygiene contamination level checks. So when we were done, he scored 69, which is 2 star. They would have scored 3 star, but the ATP brought them down. So it means they need to work much on the touches, where people comes in and touch. It means they don't clean the doorknobs, the flashing areas, and then the taps here. So they need to put much importance on those things, because that is where we can easily pick microorganisms from.
Those who come in every day, shouldn't they worry because of these high ratings? The ATP, shouldn't they worry?
Oh no, so they set up this business to take care of the community when it comes to their, sanitation or hygiene needs. So they have to be in the right conditions so that when they come in, they know they are safe. We are doing this, like I keep saying, as a continuous improvement measure. They will not be worried. It will rather put the operator and the cleaners on their toes, and it also gives some comfort to the user. So it's a win-win situation. When they know that they are now 2 star and the next time they are getting 3 star, they even have the opportunity to, if they have to increase some of the fixtures or things around to get them good revenues, it will be done. You understand? So this is good in all ways, both for the user and then the toilet operator. Yes.
So after going through, this is where we draw the curtains. We saw that there were other assessments and other checklists that the public toilet facility was actually scrutinized through, and we realized that per their checks, they found a high level of contamination. That is the touching point. This exercise, she says that it will continue for the next 6 months. So they'll be coming here every 6 months to make sure that this exercise, she says that it will continue for the next 6 months. So they'll be coming here every 6 months to make sure that